Hey guys, welcome. This is HD, and it's time for game 2 between ST.Bomber and between IM.Losira. And I'll bring up the scoreboard. It really doesn't make it. It's hard because obviously one of them is Korean, and then you can tell obviously the Zerg is Losira. But I do like to keep the scoreboard up just for a couple of seconds so you guys can know exactly who the players are and their orientation on the map. Losira is the blue Zerg. For those of you guys who may be more audio oriented than video or visual oriented. And of course, down in the bottom left hand corner we do have ST.Bomber. He was the winner of this first set, and quite the victory as well. It was very back and forth, and for a moment I thought Losira had this kind of golden opportunity to win the game, and it certainly looked like he did. He crushed through the army. I feel like if we could have rewinded back in time, and if he could have took his entire army rather than taking one chunk and then a secondary chunk, and then took out that entire Terran army in the middle of Shattered Temple, I think that would have changed the course of that game drastically, because it wouldn't have given the Terran player more time to rebuild. He could have had his entire army bearing down after that attack on one of the bases, and shortly after he could have killed off a base or done something better than just had half his army AFK. So that was a bit unfortunate for Losira, but I'm sure that he's learned from that little mistake, and now we are on the second map and the second matchup here for the IPL4 online qualifiers. Once again, guys, I'm bringing you these videos because I want to go ahead and promote IPL4. The event will be in Las Vegas at the Cosmopolitan on April 6th. Hope you guys are there. I don't know if you guys like to gamble or if you guys like to just go out and party in Las Vegas. Maybe you guys are local to the area, or maybe you guys just love StarCraft 2 and you're going to come out there, period. Come out and have a good time. You guys can go get your tickets at the link down below, and more information will be found there. But yeah, the map here is going to be Atlantis Spaceship, which is a map that we featured in the Mapmaker tournament and has become a very prominent map here at IPL4, and I would assume we're going to have it at the live event as well. So it's a good idea to get yourself familiar with this map, because it probably... Whoa, did I almost see a hatchery going down there? We'll probably have this map being featured at the live event, so it's a good idea to familiarize yourselves with the map. And for those of you guys who might be wondering, what the map is like, or those of you guys who haven't seen it, one of the major features here is the rich Vespene geyser at the center of the map, and there's 3 gases total. The rich one being hidden behind some steam vents. It's so rich in gas that there's Vespene coming out of the ground next to it as well. That's I guess kind of the idea behind that. But yes, so that's pretty much one of the main features. The other cool feature as well is of course we have the natural leading out to the rest of the map, but also the third, very vulnerable as well, as there's a total different attack path leading from the third of the Zerg over to the third of the Terran base. And oftentimes that does promote a lot of interplay between the bases and a lot of action at multiple points around the map. It's not just going to be isolated to one particular area. And there's that SCV making its way inside the Zerg main. Just wants to get a good scope to see what's going on. Didn't see any gasping mine there, but I think you might have saw the spawning pool kind of trembling and shaking. And that usually is a good indicator that we do have the speed upgrade coming in terms of metabolic boost. And that's going to help the Zerglings get quite a bit of speed. There is a factory on the way as well for Bomber, who's going into the command center, macro command center in fact, as he's got the other command center on the low ground already. So he's going to go for this macro approach, and you can't blame him on Atlantis Spaceship. It's such a big map, very easy to expand. The issue of being able to defend the expansion, of course, is another issue entirely. But the fact that there's so many bases on the map and it's a pretty large distance from base to base, I think that Bomber is going to be able to get away with the macro command center. The question, though, is how long is it going to take him to be able to secure it? Because I think it's going to be sitting inside the base for quite some time. That Overlord also made its way into the base, and I wonder if Losira saw it. Yes, he did. So Losira saw the command center, and judging from the timing here, I think you can safely assume that it is an in-base command center, and there's already one on the low ground. And yeah, we'll just see how long it takes Bomber to go ahead and secure the third one. Meanwhile, inside Losira's base, what is he doing? Got a Roach Run on the way here, and speed is already done. There is the possibility here, based off of Losira's prior scouting, and seeing that there's an orbital command on the way here, there is the possibility that Losira will say to himself, hey, I know that that's not the natural command center. There's no way that that command center is coming up that late. There's got to be already one on the ground. So judging based off of that, maybe I can make some type of attack happen. Now, he did place a Roach Horn at the front of the Zerg base, so if you're just trying to get into the mind tricks a little bit of this game, there's also the possibility that he's trying to make it seem like he's going to make a bunch of roaches and attack because he put it at the front door. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what Losira decides to do. He's got a second Evo Chamber now coming up on the high ground, and has not yet expanded over to the third. So if those Hellions were to make it over to the front door here by any chance, and they saw that Roach Horn, I'm sure that Bomber would say, you know what, maybe I'll throw up a second bunker just to be safe. There is at least one siege tank on the high ground here, and that's going to give him a little bit more of a comfort zone, a little bit of a buffer against roaches, obviously with the siege mode finishing up as well. And still no third hatchery on the way yet from Losira. But that Roach Horn is still at the front there. Those Hellions haven't even scouted it out yet. So we'll see if Bomber decides to go in there yet. There is a lair on the way as well. And yeah, there is no Roach aggression coming out of Losira like we saw in the first game. That's just one of those plays that you really can't do all the time. It's something that you save up your sleeve and you do it once in a while to try to catch the opponent off guard for being greedy. But you can't do it all the time. I am kind of surprised he didn't do it this game, because he did see that command center coming up, and there was an opportunity, I think, to make something happen. But then again, you also have Bomber rushing the siege tanks out and getting the siege mode on the high cliff right away. So very, very difficult to penetrate that with just purely roaches and zerglings. Also, as you guys can see, the command center, the orbital command, just chilling in the main. We don't have him lifting it off and trying to claim some type of greedy territory right now at this stage in the game. We'll probably see it pretty soon, but for the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes that orbital command came into life, it's just been sitting inside the base. And if this were, say, Terminus or Crevasse, you might see that orbital command, you know, claim the early expansion right away. But on a map like Atlantis Spaceship, where this is so wide open and so vast, very, very unlikely, and that is something that our Terran player's Bomber knows. You know, he knows that he can't just grab that expansion at will. And meanwhile, Losira, on the other side of the map, has the third coming down, also has a macro CC, tons of upgrades coming for both these players. We have a lot of bio upgrades coming to accommodate the massive amount of Marines that Bomber really likes to play around with. And that is in the form of +1 armor, stim pack, +1 weapons, more barracks, more reactor cores coming down, plenty of just mass production from the Terran player. Meanwhile, Losira, favoring more of the Zergling Infestor style this game, will not be seeing Mutalisks. Rather, we'll be seeing the fungal growths, the mass Zerglings, and to accompany that, usually Zergs will rush those upgrades as well. I don't think that Losira has been that on point with his upgrades. I would like to see him, you know, finishing up +2/+2 pretty soon, but he's only got the 2 armor rather than getting both 2 armor and 2 weapons. So maybe just a little bit starved in the gas department is he, and that's because he did claim the third somewhat late, and finally the 6th extractor has come up. Meanwhile, some Zerglings here from Losira trying to poke at the front. That's not going to happen, man. There's just too many siege tanks here. And we finally have that macro CC saying, okay, I'm tired of sharing a home with you, Daddy. I'm going to go in and, you know, make a nest for myself. I'm going to go and find my own family. And he goes out to the third here, and he's going to land down and has a bunch of SCVs and mules already prepped to go. So yeah, it really looks like Bomber is looking solid this game, man. His production tab, this entire game has just been double what the Zerg has. And that's pretty normal to have because Terrans have so many more upgrades to play with than Zerg really do. But I still think it's a good indicator that Bomber is on point this game. And we don't see Losira really favoring that advantage in supply that most Zergs usually would be. So there's another base coming up, of course, to the top side. Very surprising that Losira did not decide to claim the rich Vespine side here, and it looks like he's just going to double expand it. So there it is. If he's not going to claim it now, he's going to just claim them both at the same time. And very, very interesting here. Both players absolutely set up for a macro game. Not something that I've seen very often on Atlantis Spaceship. Because it's an unfamiliar map, I think, and this is the reasoning why. Because it's an unfamiliar map for players, they like to rush to base play. They like to end it early on. They don't feel comfortable enough to play a long-term game. But now that this map has been out in IPL for so long, the players have been kind of getting accustomed to it. They realize it's going to be at the live event. Might as well get practice on it now. And that's what we kind of see here. Both players going into huge late game scenarios with 3 base Terran, possibly going to have a 4th base pretty soon here. This base, by the way, at the bottom right hand corner, guys, absolutely neutral. Any side can grab it. But yeah, it's going to be a long-term affair here, and we kind of see Bomber making moves right now and trying to go for some big plays, I guess. And the one advantage that Terran does have on this map is they can go right behind the Rich Vespine expansion. They can siege it up and take it out pretty quickly. But right now, there's really no drones mining there, and we do have Lucira coming in with the Zergling backstab again. Deja vu all over. And my body, deja vu all over my body. The Zerglings are inside the natural, and they're inside the main. They're going after the NG Bay upgrades, and they are going to be able to take out at least one of the upgrades. That's a crucial delay here for the Terran player. Now we have a fungal bomb coming out. Beautiful fungal growth. So Seer could just go for the chain fungal, and I think he will go for just that. But with the siege tank sieging up, he cannot continue to do just that. And now the Zerglings continuing to flood in. So Lucira really coming in from all sorts of angles. He was able to fungal growth the Terran army in the middle. Unfortunately, wasn't able to chain fungal it down, but he still has done tons of damage. Kills off more buildings inside the main, but he's got to worry about this attack at his 3rd expansion. Doesn't really have the forces at home to deal with that, I don't think. And trying to bring those infestors away from harm's way, and has to sacrifice that 3rd hatchery as a result. Meanwhile, at the center of the map, some Zerglings able to pick off a squadron of Marines and Marauders looking to reinforce the Terran army. And with the reinforcement path cut off, I think Bomber is going to now have to pull back most of his army. Very risky to leave it out there without the ability to reinforce. And some Zerglings trying to get another surround. But those same Zerglings unable to do it because those Marines are so heavily upgraded. And the Zerglings, I don't think, share that same amount of upgrades. 2-2 on the Zerglings. Marines and Marauders actually 2-2 as well. And that is because both engineering bays were taken down. So that other building that went down earlier was the secondary engineering base. So that is why the Marines and Marauders don't have more upgrades than the Zerg forces. The engineering bays have been taken down so many times this game. And now it's really just a stalemate at the center of the map, but those Brute Lords that have now come out, now that Losira has tapped into the Hive technology, I think that's going to change the nature of this game very, very quickly. It is no longer possible for Bomber to hold on to the center of the map. He's got to pull back. He just got bungled. A large portion of his army getting taken out, and now Losira taking advantage of the map once again. I'm surprised Bomber did not wall this off and seal it up, because now those Zerglings have an opportunity to go ahead and run right into the natural, and no walling going off inside the main either. And once again, the Zerglings are going to find the engineering base, and they're going to take it down for the 2nd time today. That's another huge loss for the Marines and Marauders, because the Zerg counterparts, they are getting up to 3-3. In fact, I believe they're already on 3-3. And yes, they're on 3-2. They're about to get that 3rd melee attack upgrade. So really, Bomber's in a lot of trouble here. Once again, getting his army fungled up, and he really chewed up and spitting out alive. Cannot allow that to continue happening. He's got to spread out his army. At least he's taken control over his main and his natural. Maybe not his natural just yet, because there's still some Zerglings raiding the economy. 19, 21, 22 Harvesters have gone down, and that Harvester count continues to skyrocket. You know, Bomber has just got to seal off the holes, man. He's got to build some supply depots, some barracks, whatever he can possibly get on the ground to choke this off and prevent the Zerglings from running inside. And then he needs a secondary trench at the main, at the ramp, to prevent Zerglings from running inside the main. That's what he needs to do, and then he can attack without having to fear retaliation. Unfortunately, this game, that hasn't been the case. He's been retaliated time and time again. Losira really making use of the map very, very smartly, and is still sitting on 2, 3, 4 bases. He is trying to reconstruct the 5th over here, and it looks like he has been able to get it up. There was a drop that just got deflected by that Corruptor squad, and that is going to be cleaned up pretty quickly, although the Queen was taken out. So one small victory for Bomber, but that's a very, very minuscule victory indeed. At this point in the game, Bomber has just got to settle down a little bit, I feel like. Wall everything off. I'm still surprised he hasn't taken that liberty to just place another supply depot here, man, and then get one supply depot here and one depot here, and then you're gravy. But I think Bomber might just be forced into this situation where he feels like he's just going to have to walk out on and go for some type of huge play here, because he doesn't have a 4th base. He's behind in bases right now, and behind in the economy. He doesn't have enough SCVs to keep up with the Zerg. And so he might just feel in his head right now that he's got to make some huge play happen, and he's just not concerned about the counterattack anymore. He feels like he's pretty much excreted maximum economy out of the natural and out of the main, and so not placing too much emphasis on defense here, and now moving out across the field with 2 medevacs he's doing, and that is going to cross over some of the creep tumors. So I think that Losira absolutely aware about the medevac harass impending on the south side. I don't know about the north side, because we have another medevac squadron moving out to the north. In fact, 2 medevac squads moving out, and that's 4 total on the map right now. At the same time, Bomber also moving into the center of the field with his Marauders and Marines, and Bomber has to be successful here, whether it be the drop to the right side or the drop to the left side or the ground troops in the middle of the map. Somewhere on the map, he's got to be successful if he's going to try to get back in this game, because right now I feel like he is behind and Losira is ahead. Losira is getting chitinous plating right now. He's got tons of banelings coming on the field. That medevac is going to get picked off before it can load all of its cargo, and I don't see those Marines doing much, not when they just got struck by the banelings. And that took it out pretty easily. There is the secondary medevac squad coming in though, and that secondary squad was able to take out the Ultralisk Cavern. Nice play right there, and I do believe it picked it off before the chitinous plating finished. Meanwhile, the other squadron over here at the Zerg 5th, and nice play right now from Bomber, but that gets picked off by a squadron of banelings. So you know, all in all, even though I think Bomber lost 3 medevacs, he was able to take out the Ultralisk Cavern, and that is so huge, because now we're not going to have any more Ultralisks coming out for a very long time. Chitinous plating was delayed for an indefinite amount of time, and that all adds up to Bomber being able to claim another expansion, and that is huge, because now Bomber doesn't have to feel like he's being choked off into some type of all-in affair. He can just get the 4th base up, get some mining going, get that extra gas if he needs it, but really he just needs it for the minerals, and try to go into the late game, as we really are already in the late game. Try to go into the super late game, I guess. Plenty of Vikings on the field as well. That's going to be able to pick off the Broodlords very easily. Oh man, that could have been bad, as those banelings were just scrambling down the ramp. A fungal also coming down as well. Bomber was able to get out of the way with most of his forces, but he is still in a terrible position here. Those Broodlings just eating the Marines for breakfast, and Bomber has to pull back. Bomber just not in a confident enough position to engage against the Broodlords, the Infestors, and the Corruptors. That squadron is just so big. And now they are threatening to make an attack over at the newest command center, the newest planetary fortress, and Bomber is not in position to defend it at all, which, you know, to me is kind of surprising. He's moving out with his Vikings to the north. I guess he wants to make another attack over at this hatchery, but I do feel like right now this is a vulnerable hotspot, but it looks like Losira is going to pull back. So post size pulling back over to a new engagement location. Some Broodlings beginning to spit down to the ground below, and it doesn't look like Bomber wants to engage those Broodlords either. So he's also going to pull back with the Vikings. A very, very back and forth game right now, but the Ultras have now come out. New chitinous plating upgrade is on the way. Those Ultras will not have the advantage of having 6 armor, rather they will be at 4 armor, so the Marines will be able to chop through the Ultralisk somewhat, but there's still a threat on the ground. And now we're looking at the big engagement we've been waiting for. But where are the Broodlords? I'm so surprised that Losira just attacked without his Broodlords once again, going in 1 chunk, 2 chunk situations, and that is not how you successfully engage a Zerg. Everything needs to come in all at once. So a big misstep by Losira, and it looks like there's going to be a capitalization here from Bomber. Bomber attacks into the back of that Zerg expansion. He's going to be able to take out several drones, a couple of gases as well. A total of 27 drones taken down so far for Bomber, and gosh, actually 43 drones killed off this game for Bomber. So really spectacular job, fantastic job from Bomber, and a big misstep, I think, from Incredible Miracles Losira. Just going in there with 1 chunk of his army, and just like the same mistake he made on Shatter Temple, should have went in with everything at once, but did not, and now he's in a lot of trouble. Those Vikings are over his airspace. They're picking off any new Corruptors that can come out before they can even begin to become Broodlords. There are some Spore Crawlers on the ground though, so that's making those Vikings' life very, very difficult. Now they are going to find refuge in the cracks between the main and the open center of the field. Those Ultras are going to be able to get up in the mix though. Those Marines will be able to, will they be able to hold their ground or not? It doesn't look like it. Too many Ultras and Zerglings, and the terrible position for Bomber, and this game is so close. This is really one of the game of dreams here, as it really can go either way at this point. Bomber having made mistakes this game, leaving his Marine squadron to get picked off, his Viking squadron also being thinned out as they flew over spore crawlers and over a bunch of queens, and now it looks like Bomber is the one who's going to have to be on the defensive as Lucira looks to make some aggressive play happen. It's really close here. I can't sway one way or the other for either side, and the Ultras and the Zerglings are on the planetary fortress, but they immediately retreat as there's too many SCVs repairing that planetary, and those Marauders and Marines trying to bait the Ultras and Zerglings away, allowing that planetary to heal up. Some infestors running in here, but Lucira not paying attention, and those infestors are going to get picked off before they could spit out a fungal growth. And it looks like Bomber able to pull back most of his Marauders and Marines into the nook and cranny, and thankfully for him there were no infestors there. They were just so busy over at the planetary fortress dying that that Bomber was able to clear out of the Ultra threat. So just a back and forth game right now, so close, and we've seen plenty of these ZVT games where they just get down to the wire, and if you had to call it one way or the other, it would be really difficult to do. So I just don't know how this is going to go down. Both players are maxed in terms of upgrades, they are not maxed in terms of supply, and resources are beginning to run thin for both sides. So now this is where Units Micro is really going to count, and that was not good by Bomber. Startail Bomber just losing a huge chunk of his army there, and a Baneling detonation hitting some of the fragile Marines as well. It looks like Lucira, running in here with a huge squadron of Zerglings, is going to be able to clean up a lot of SCVs as well, and Lucira getting a big victory. Will he be able to do more damage? No, he will not, as those Marines are just underneath so many medevacs that he had to pull away. So there are some burrowed Banelings also just chilling inside the Terran base, and that could prove to be pretty disastrous. Lucira also chopping up some of the SCVs, trying to make their way over to the left-hand side of the map, not allowing Bomber to get that 5th base up and running, and that's huge plays right there. Big plays from Lucira. Also gets some great chain fungal growths to go down on the medevacs and Marines, and now the infested Terrans also coming out, and I do think Bomber is running on fumes now. He's on thin ice, and he cannot continue to keep up in this game. So the second victory goes to Incredible Miracle Lucira. Great plays, and one of the more epic matches that I have seen on this map, Atlantis Spaceship. Very incredible game, just action all throughout, and never really a dull point at all in this game. So great plays, and Lucira ties up this series, meaning of course we're going to go into the third and final match. And in that third and final match, whoever should win that game will go on to get a shot to qualify for IPL4. So hope you guys enjoyed so far, and if you guys get a shot, go ahead and check out the link down below. You guys can then get some tickets for the Cosmopolitan and IPL4 that will be occurring on April 6th, which is only about a week away. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be coming at you guys with the third game of this fantastic and very high profile match coming up next. HD signing out.